Oh, yes. Hello, it's me, MrSasaki, with my Chester edition of the Bach Cello Suites. Um, so here we are, part two of how do I approach Bach, or how do I interpret Bach, specifically the cello suites on viola. Um, all right, so review. In video number one, we talked about the historical context, Bach, when he lived, the cello suites, a little bit of history of that. They're kind of fell down, and then they became popular, and the structure of them: six suites, six movements, five of which are dances. Yeah, which will come into play today. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, so let's get to it. But just so that people pay attention and think I'm important, I'm going to put on the glasses again. Pay attention. All right. So here we go. Approaches. I have four. Number one. Okay. The simplest one. Do nothing special. Do you believe it? Just if you play, because we talked about how Bach was like an amazing genius, right? Maybe the greatest musical genius ever, right? If you play what he wrote, or at least what we understand what he wrote, okay, because of the manuscript copies and all that kind of stuff, but there's still disagreements on some notes and slurs. But if you just play what he wrote, all right, in sort of general agreed upon tempos that make sense to the dance form, you are going to sound amazing. All right, it's going to play itself. That's how good Bach is. All right, the great cellist Janos Starker. All right, um, I grew up with his recording on Mercury, and of the cello suites, and basically he doesn't do anything with them. He just plays. He was a perfect player. Like, he just played the notes in tune. Tempos were super steady. Everything was just like clean and wonderful. And guess what? The music came through. He didn't have to do slow downs and grandiose this and that. He just played the notes really well, and it sounded amazing. And I actually got to meet Starker in college, and I said, Mr. Starker, like, I grew up with your cello. I think he signed my cello suites to my CD copy, and I said, oh, I grew up with these, and I just like shaped my interpretation and my idea of the cello suites. And he's like, you were well served. He knew, like, he sort of had this landmark recording that was sort of just so crisp and just so clean. Just everything was there. He didn't have to do much with it. He just did what he just did. It was awesome. All right, so that's number one. Do nothing. Just play the notes. Okay. For more, that was number one. For number two, if you're not as perfect as Starker, you might want more approaches to kind of help you along your way. So here we go. Number two, HIP, historically informed performance. So HIP. Okay. There's some generally agreed upon conventions for Baroque music and how to perform it, such as eighth notes being separated, 16ths and 32nds being smooth, right? So right, bum bum bum, and that bouncing eighth note kind of, or buoyant eighth notes, kind of creates this almost like a swing, a Baroque swing, as I call it. It makes Baroque music so infectious. If you play classical music for anybody, just a person on the street, probably Baroque music is what they would gravitate most to. It just, like, there's something lively about it and energetic. Okay, so there's some agreed upon things, right? So we do those things in general. As a music student, we learn those conventions. Okay, the big question is that I covered in the last video is, these are dance movements? What? Like, what did we do? So I think we need to acknowledge, it is important to know that these were at least not necessarily intended to be danced to, I don't think, but they were at least styled after and named after dances, right? These sort of archaic dances that nobody really practices anymore. So I think the main thing to take away from that is play steady, right? So even though they aren't probably intended to be danced to, we still need to keep true to the inspiration for the movements, okay? And that dances need to be steady. We also have to think about, like, footwear of the time. I don't think they had, like, flat shoes. I think they had, like, heels and and like everything was very upright. I don't think it would be possible to change tempos in your dance very easily. Like everything was very rigid, is my guess. I don't know. All right, so number 3. Third way is theory and chord structure, analyzing it, right? So this is the one, I'll be honest, is the one I'm the weakest on. I was never a great theory student. I never really was great with analyzing chords and all that kind of stuff. But, so what does that mean? So like, like cello suite number 1, right? So, right? So we have all these chords that sort of, if we stacked all the notes, we would end up with these different chords. Do I know all the chords? No. Have I analyzed all the chords? No. Do I feel the drama in the chords and where they're going? Yes. So, one of my teachers in college, I'm not going to say it because I might get him in trouble, but but he'll agree with me, and I agree with him too, totally, is I said, all these people are analyzing the chords, and like, should I write them all down? He's like, no. And I said, well, how do you do it? And he said, you know what? I trust my instincts. That's it. And I agree. It's like, I feel the drama in the chords, where they're going, and the phrases, and I just use my own musical judgment and taste to sort of figure it out. And how do I structure the arc of this movement, And where are the events? Where do I want to go to and recede from? And anyway, so that's it. That's one approach. You should know, at least understand and feel the chord progressions and the structure of the piece, and the motivations and where the phrases are, okay? Number 4, the least sort of concrete one, I guess you could say, the most magical in a way, the most artistic, okay? The ethereal, as we talked about potentially, right, is to use imagery. So, each movement has a different character. So what is that character? What is that picture? What is that story, mood that you're trying to portray with that movement? Were there many moods in that movement? Who knows? It could be a story. It could have ups and downs. I think if you can kind of think out of the box and sort of stretch your ideas about where things are going, that can help with phrasing, but it can also, find a different way to connect with your audience and make your interpretation unique. Like I said, you can do number 1 and do nothing, and it'll sound fabulous. But if you kind of want to make it a little bit more your own, but yet not mess with the confines of what classical music establishes, I think number 4 is a good way to do it. Just what is the story that you want to do, And if I can give an example. So like, suite number 3. Right? It sounds pretty triumphant to me. It sounds very like gallant and exciting, right? And so maybe that could be like a ballroom. People are dancing. Why not? It's a dance. So people are all like excited. And then we go to the dark corner of the room for minuet number 2. Right? All of a sudden it's in minor. And so we have like the dark corner, and there's kind of like a person, we'll just say, in the corner who's a little bit sad because they're not being asked to dance. And then it changes because it returns in the end. Right? So maybe that person found a dance partner or their true love or whatnot. So, it's kind of fun to kind of make up these stories and kind of find a different vision than just the notes, and reading those notes down and playing perfectly in tempo and whatnot. Because you notice I didn't play perfectly in tempo when I did da 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 dum bum ba dee dee da. I kind of stretched and I emphasized, and that's the storytelling, okay? And what makes it, this is one last thing about this. What makes great artists is not necessarily if they can get all the notes, because those are virtuosos, right? But it's what they say in between the notes that makes the difference. So think about that, okay? All right, so these are the 4 approaches. Okay, so number 1, do nothing. Play clean and awesome, and if you can do that, you're going to be golden. 2, be hip. Have a historic, at least informed way of approaching it, okay? The dance forms and whatnot. Know some basics about that, at least. 3, theory and chord progression. So, at least I know the motivations of the harmonic structure and where it's going, okay, where it's taking me, where I want the music to I want to show the music where it's going, okay, and the phrases. Number 4, imagery. Figure out a way to tell a story, paint a picture, a mood. Think outside of the notes, okay, and that's where amazing artistry can happen, and you can get your audience really involved in your performance and hopefully communicate what you're feeling. All right, I hope this has been helpful, and see you in the next video. Bye.